There sits a record in the books, a law nearly as old as living memory, hammered out long before war with Iran or the rise of the shale fields. On a morning with gas up nearly $1, a single letter from the president throws open that safeguard. Suddenly, foreign ships pass in American waters, all in the name of giving folks at home just a little relief at the pump. Picture the slips of Pascagoula Shipyard, where shipbuilders in blue coveralls gather as the news travels down the line. For all of this, how much will it change? I begin here because the mind cannot help but wonder, how can lifting the Jones Act, a law guarding our shipping for over 100 years, deliver only a savings measured by fractions of a penny, yet place whole shipyards, livelihoods, and national security in jeopardy? Something in this does not add up. Understanding why leads to the real test facing the Republic. In fair reckoning, let us set the table as it stands. Amid the shadow of war and old rivalries abroad, fuel costs have risen, nearly $1 higher with every gallon. The White House made its call. For 60 days, the Jones Act is waived. Now, vessels carrying oil, gas, and coal between American harbors no longer need fly our flag, nor be built by our hands. The president points to hardship at home and dangers in the Strait of Hormuz, declaring this a shield for supply chain resilience and a way to halt disruptions. On the steps of the Department of Transportation, aides display the order. In Gulf Coast refineries, operators stare at screens blinking red with bottleneck warnings. Some compare this move to when great hurricanes battered us, Katrina, Maria, moments when American law bent so foreign aid could rush in, or when war left no option but urgency. But the storms then threatened lives and halted energy cold. Today, industry leaders, like William Doyle, once chief at the Federal Maritime Commission, tell us foreign ships may shave barely half a cent from the price. Even backers concede whatever savings comes, it's swallowed in a global market's tide. Imagine the boardroom at American Maritime Partnership, chairs filled with shipbuilders and union voices, as this hard math settles in. A century's law undone for what may be little more than a gesture. Yet almost hidden is a deeper tension. Does the president, even amidst war, hold just cause to unbind a law built for both commerce and sovereignty? Can national security be measured in cents, or must it pass a sterner test? And what of precedent? When today's exception takes root, does it not beckon a dozen more tomorrow in times liked and unliked by the people? Before we can rest with these questions, new wounds appear below the surface. The American Maritime Partnership warns, let foreign ships take our coastal trade, and American crews will sit idle. Shipyards from Philadelphia to Mobile counting contracts in red ink. Unions cling to the hope that jobs lost today are not careers lost forever. The critics, like at the Cato Institute, argue the law costs too much. Ships built 5 times dearer, cargo moving slow, coastal trade thinning out, and all for an ideal they claim is more memory than strategy. A contradiction forms. Will a short-term easing fix the hard truth that energy prices are set by world events beyond our shore? Or will every flare from Tehran and every bottleneck in the Persian Gulf pressure us to chip at laws made for leaner, safer times? The White House says the market demands it. The workers say the home demands it. In the streets of Scranton, families at the pump glance between headlines and price signs, waiting for a change they may never see. Yet the hardest question is one rarely weighed in the heat of headlines. What happens when executive power, drawn for an emergency, emerges not from hurricanes, but every jump in the market, every distant threat? When does necessity become custom? Who then stands to hold the line between urgent relief and the slow surrender of safeguards meant to protect our house? But that is a question for only a patient country to answer. Think on this. The order's ink dries in Washington, but the real bond of commerce and independence that founded the Jones Act took shape long ago. In shipyards along the Delaware, in the dry docks of Baltimore, in the bays of Seattle, laws like these drew breath not for official comfort or peace alone, but for hard times, against the day when foreign ships and aims might overrun the means by which a nation keeps its own. In those yards now, Welders and crane operators talk about fathers and grandfathers who signed on with these rules, believing the future must be tied to American steel and American hands. Picture, if you will, the dry dock in Mobile, Alabama. Cranes stand still, and crews gather along hulls once shaped for the Navy and merchant fleet. Inside a small office, a foreman studies a copy of the order, wondering if contracts will hold, and if ships a year from now will still bear names drawn from American rivers and towns. Here, something plain must be said. To help people with lower prices is a worthy end. To hollow out the very industry that makes that help possible tomorrow is to rob the nation of her strength and peace. The Jones Act was rooted for one purpose: keep American shipping, built and manned by Americans, not just for trade, but for safety, supply, and unity. When foreign oil flows in for 60 days, another question forms, a question that does not leave with the ships. Can a solution to hardship, made in haste, remain truly temporary, or do exceptions breed exceptions until the rule is remembered only in name? History shows this pattern is not new. In the years after the Revolution, when American ships were small and our credit soft, Congress faced calls to open our ports to more foreign traders. At first, goods grew cheaper, and the pain of a young economy eased. But soon enough, home shipyards lost their orders, and harbors once full of sails emptied. Only after years of hardship did the country recover what it nearly lost to pressure and impatience. A new voice will say, have times not changed? Can we not depend on allies and on commerce flowing quick and free? Wise trade with friends is strength. But consider the Strait of Hormuz, a narrow choke point where, even now, hostile ships and a single missile can send the oil supply of half the world into chaos. There, as Operation Epic Fury unfolds, the U.S. fleet sails to keep the world's fuel moving. But do we wish our own ports, our own gasoline, held hostage to the choices of foreign crews whose loyalty is not to the Republic, but to profit or pressure? Picture the command center aboard the USS Baton, where officers map tankers trying to meet American demand. They know the difference: a supply chain woven by American shipyards and law bends, but does not break. Every waiver, every shortcut, plants a seed for weakness, even if claimed to be temporary. Step into another scene. Imagine the floor of Congress. Lawmakers debate not just a waiver, but whether the next one and the one after will become habit, not exception. In the visitors' gallery, a group of shipbuilders from San Diego sit in quiet hope. They know what is decided will shape more than this year's paycheck. Here stands the heart of the matter. Not all news is black and white. The need for relief is real. The strain on families in Lake Charles and other towns tied to ports is deep. Picture a main street with gas prices flashing like beacons, each one marking the week's hope or worry. But how often do we let hardship, hard as it is, talk us into believing that the next exception will not return, larger, harder to refuse? Is it not the duty of a free people to remember? The habits of government form not when times are easy, but when hardship presses close. The founders wrote in checks on authority for a reason, not to halt progress, but to secure the nation, so that what is meant to be rare remains so. Now suppose for a moment that the temporary answer becomes routine. Every energy shock, every spike in price, brings new calls to soften rules in the name of relief. The cost is not just at the register, but in lost callings: shipbuilder, longshoreman, merchant captain, whose crafts once gone are slow to come back. Pause at a union hall in Newport News, Virginia. The leader posts warnings about slowdowns if overseas tankers win more work. A young apprentice wonders, will his trade, passed down the line, outlast this new exception? The answer lies not just in orders from high offices, but in the watchfulness of citizens who care about the long run. History urges caution. When the great railroad strikes of the late 19th century broke out, presidents sent troops and unbound the rails. What started as a one-time answer soon set a pattern. The intent was rescue. The effect was custom. Once written in the conduct of the state, such habits fade slowly, if ever. It is not enough to simply lament or hope for good fortune. The serious question, out of sight in the noise of news, is this: what kind of republic do we keep? A nation that swaps each safeguard for momentary ease, or one that pays the price for long-term strength and unity. This is why, at every chain in the link, law, industry, trade, and national defense, we must see beyond today's problem to tomorrow's risk. For each waiver granted in haste, a piece of America's independence is set aside. That is why it matters not just what money is saved now, but what strength may be lost, quietly, over years to come. Walk with me onto the docks at San Pedro, California, where stevedores watch as a foreign-flagged tanker unloads. The faces there tell you the stakes are not only economic, they are a question of pride, of belonging to something built for Americans, by Americans. Some elder workers recall the days when every ship in port bore names they could pronounce, and every captain knew the lay of the land as well as the tides. Think for a moment of the shipbuilding classrooms at SUNY Maritime College in New York. There, students learn more than navigation. They learn why the law exists. They learn what can be lost, not just in dollars, but in the nation's ability to choose its own course when the seas turn rough. What then is our task as citizens, as lawmakers, as neighbors? It is to ask for more than comfort in the moment. It is to demand vision, the kind that plans not for the next headline, but for the horizon beyond it. No nation that gives away its vessels and seafarers can stand long when the tests come, as they always do. You need only look to the shipyards in Philadelphia, where welders and apprentices question if the work will return when the waiver lifts. Will there still be jobs, or will promises be forgotten? These are the costs that are not counted in cents at the pump, but in the confidence families feel in their future. Let us, as a people, call for more than the easy way out. Let us make sure every measure taken, even in true emergency, comes with a clear end date and comes with a plan to rebuild what was set aside for the crisis. Every waiver must be rare, tightly watched, and always second to the larger work of restoring America's own supply lines and skills. America's story is not one of shortcuts, but of building and keeping what is difficult and lasting. Each law, each job at a dock or refinery, each lesson passed in classrooms and union halls is part of the Republic's shield. A shield built not for the calm, but for the storm. As I look ahead with you, with all who labor in the harbors and all who wait at the store for a price they can afford, I believe the Republic can be saved, but it does not save itself. It is the watchfulness of citizens, the courage of lawmakers, and the patience to do what is right, even when what is easy tempts more. So I leave you with this. When you see the news of the next crisis, will you ask not only what brings relief, but what preserves the sturdy pillars of our independence? For in that question, and in the way we answer it, lies the path for those yet unborn, who will one day ask if we defended the Republic when it was tried. What will your answer be?